Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for joining this live stream. We are going to be speaking about the Dawah to Jordan Peterson, the video that just came out a few hours ago. So, firstly, thank you so much for everybody for joining this late stream and being patient with the beginning of this discussion. All right, what are we going to do today? Firstly, I just want to know in the comments, what did you guys think of the discussion? Let's see what people have to say. We have Aru, Fadamo, LB, Muhammad, Laith, Please the Creator, Tom Tanks, Muhammad Al Arif, Remy, Bon Lifon. All right, guys. Someone says JP sounds angry. No, I'm not. I'm just going to read these out. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. When did the discussion take place? Good. Discussion took place some time back, before, by the way, this recent Al-Aqsa visit. Just so everyone's on the same page, way before this issue. Yeah, it took place last, maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, something like this. Don't remember the date exactly, but yeah, it is some time back. Okay. Message of Islam passed one too many times. Ball is on his court hereafter. Okay, let me just read this comment. Message of Islam passed one too many times. Ball is on his court, and after it's between him and Allah. Okay. Mashallah, hijab did so well. Is it me or does Jordan Peterson talks a lot without saying much? Look, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with these comments. I'm just simply reading them out. Okay. It pains the heart that JP is determined and unwilling to confess the Islamic faith due to whatever ambiguous reasons. I think he's scared to become a Muslim because of the way Muslims are attacked by the media. Okay. Who's the Christian guy with JP? Is he well known in the space? Don't really know him. And he's sort of, yeah, I mean, maybe he's known in North America, but don't really know him. Okay. JP keeps talking about how monotheism was for a unity of humanity. What do you think about that? Okay, good question. When we say monotheism, when we say Tawheed, do we mean God is one? Is that all we mean? Because Christians would say God is one, Sikhs would say God is one, Hindus who know their theology, they would say God is one. No, we don't. We have a totally different idea when we're speaking about God's oneness of Tawheed. So, monotheism, all monotheists just in the same bandwagon. This is very, very problematic idea. He doesn't believe that religion and God could be proven in a prepositional approach. Propositional, I think you mean. The guy isn't so simple. Okay. Yeah, he did say that in his last discussion. JP's comments on his message to Muslims was insufficient and lazy. Okay, that's Truth and knowledge. Thank you for your comment. What else? Okay. Could you tell us if the conversation continued after the video ended? It ended so abruptly. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it did continue for a bit, and there was a little bit of conversation beforehand as well. But obviously, editing team, I'm not sure how long it went on after that. But anyway, yeah. Is the full version going to be uploadable? The version that we have online, that's the only version, right? The one that he has on his page, that's the only one. Bon Leofin. Hijab made some very key points about JP's internal beliefs that even JP agrees with. I think he knows Islam is true, maybe just fearing backlash. Okay. All right, good guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the clip, right? And then I'm going to comment on it and pause it at the relevant sections. So yeah, just keep commenting and let's watch this together. All righty. What on earth is that? What kind of a display picture is that, tech fanatic? All right, let's play this clip.
Think about them as a microcosm of the world. People were under tremendous stress. And one of the temptations was to become a trustee and participate in the system of oppression. And the camps in Russia could not possibly have sustained themselves if the prisoners weren't running them. And that's something to think about with regards to totalitarianism. And
Jennifer Phillips, you've asked a question. Why are so many Muslims trying to convert people for? I went to Saudi, never have I met so many rude people pushing and not queuing. All Muslim pilgrims, please put your house in order. Now, Jennifer, thank you for your comment. Firstly, yes, in the Muslim world, you can have people who are rude. You can have people who are not queuing and just acting in an erratic way. However, the truth is the truth. A person can be an alcoholic, but they can say alcohol is bad. They can speak the truth, although they don't really, fully implement it in their own lives. So the same thing I would say to you, you should consider Islam, and there's nothing wrong with Muslims asking people to convert to Islam and talking about Islam. However, we shouldn't, this is something even JP was talking about. He looks at the followers. It's not about looking at the followers, it's actually looking at what is true. So I just wanted to add that comment, and we'll go back to watching this video.
Solzhenitsyn did note, and it was transformative to him, that there were people of genuine religious faith who were immobile in their commitment to ethical action, even in the confines of the camp, even when faced with something like recant or die, and maybe not just you die, maybe your family die, or maybe you die in misery. And one of the things that transformed Solzhenitsyn, and then the world, because his book transformed the world in large part, was his observation that this genuine striving to something like clarity of speech and a higher unity could withstand even the catastrophes of the Gulag camps.
I want to ask you a question just before we end.
Yeah, sure.
Is that
I've
okay?
only politely sat here just to indicate we need to wrap up.
Okay, but I just want to ask one last question, because I'm interested in both of you in a sense. Yeah, I said that, you know, from a Muslim perspective, the question that we're asked to ask is bring the evidence. Yeah, if I were to bring reasonable evidence which would satisfy some kind of probabilistic reasoning that the Prophet Muhammad, we believe, is the final prophet, right? That he was a true prophet, would you be willing to become a Muslim?
I wouldn't dispute a priori the idea that Muhammad was a true prophet.
Okay.
But I don't understand what that means.
So
like,
what- yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
so this is the way I'm going to look at this psychologically again. You know, it's people are granted revelations, and it's obviously the case, let's speak empirically,
Mhm.
that the revelation of Muhammad
Yeah.
united a fractious society. And so it was a uniting revelation. Now, how to conceptualize, but it's not a universally uniting revelation, at least not yet or not now, because we're not all united. So
No,
why?
but
Well,
why-
maybe we didn't understand the revelation
but
properly.
is-
That's one
is-
possibility.
Is the presupposition what you're saying, that unity is the ultimate objective?
Well, not exactly, you know, because
Okay.
then you have the problem of uniformity that you
No,
pointed
no,
out,
even,
right?
even the idea of unity itself. I mean, is there
Well,
not...
we talked about, okay, so
No,
we talked
unity is a
about
great,
this-
just to be clear,
Yeah.
I believe that unity is a great objective,
Yeah,
but I don't think it's the all-defining one. For example, if there is an injustice that is so great that disunity is more appropriate, then I can imagine situations where disunity is probably better than unity.
right.
I'm sure you can as well. For example, like in the
Well,
Soviet
that
Union.
would be a false unity in
Yeah,
some
yeah,
sense,
exactly.
right?
So
Right.
that's what we're
Well, that's
talking
why
about.
you wanted to address the elephant under the
Yeah,
carpet
yeah,
right
but-
away. We
exactly.
can't have a false peace,
Exactly.
and we
But-
can't incorporate things we can't yet incorporate.
Yes. And
No.
the reason why I'm bringing this to your attention is because I feel like it's my duty as a Muslim, especially in the mosque, right, to tell you that as Muslims, we believe that the previous dispensations, as they were, like Christianity and Judaism, they are part of our faith in a sense. Not in the sense...
Okay, so before Hijab starts speaking about the previous religions and, you know, then Islam being a continuation, what do you guys think about his reaction? I mean, I've got my thoughts on this, but, you know, he's very clearly being told, if you're given, you know, very good reasons to become a Muslim, would you accept Islam? And essentially he's saying no. And he's dodging it, and he's sort of, well, what does that mean when it's referring to a prophet? And, you know, the conversation goes off on a tangent from there. That's just my perspective. What do you guys think? So I've given the link if anybody wants to join the stream. And because there's going to be loads of people who are going to try and join the stream, I'm just going to give each person 1 minute, exactly 1 minute to give their view. Then I'm going to move on to the next person. And then I'm going to remove that person from the studio, because normally the studio gets filled with people talking. So I don't want to do that. I want to get as many people to talk as possible. So is that okay? 1 minute each person. So I'm just sending you the link again. There's the link, whoever wants to join. Okay. Let's speak to... Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Walaikum assalam. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I can. How you doing, brother? You okay?
1 second, I'm just getting my mic.
alaikum, brother.
Yes. Walaikum assalam. Can you hear me clearly? Yes. What? I was annoyed. What was annoyed about in the conversation that Jordan Peterson was very, very laissez-faire, and I'm glad Hijab called him out on it, because every response that Peterson gave, he was just like, oh well, you know, what is, like, he was being very, very meta about things, and Hijab was like, but you said in this instance to be exact and precise, but then you he said, Hijab said nicely, you're contradicting yourself basically. I don't know how much more I can expand because obviously time and all that, but that's how I feel. To be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much, brother. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu
Thank you.
alaikum. Interesting thoughts. Let's now go to Rahat Hassan. Assalamu alaikum, brother Rahat. 1 minute we're going to give to each person joining because there's loads of people trying to join. So please make your point in a concise way, like the last speaker. Go ahead, brother Hasnain. Brother Hasnain will go to scientifically productive.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Assalamu
well, I think this shows the insincerity of Dr. Jordan Peterson, to put it bluntly. Because now, if someone is showing like evidence and he's saying like, "I'm going to provide you for your evidence that might satisfy your intellect," and you still do not accept it, and you say that you're not going to become a Muslim, then I think this is basically just him being insincere and him being so. How would I put this? So indoctrinated or so firm on his Christian faith that he's so unwilling and so biased towards Islam, which makes it so hateful. If if these podcasts are not being broadcasted like online and a lot of people are benefiting from it, like this discussion should just stop because it's not going to benefit Jonathan Peterson personally, but a lot other people are benefiting from it. So yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. Interesting thoughts. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, brother. We'll next go to Faisal Salim. Assalamu alaikum, brother Faisal. How you doing?
Alhamdulillah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. In my opinion, I think this is the beginning. Once you give dawah to someone, once you give them the message of Islam, you don't expect them right up front to, accept it.
Yeah.
There is more work to be done. His reaction was pretty not natural and normal. Like I've seen people, even on the videos of Speaker Corner, when you tell people, sincere people, he wasn't totally opposed to Islam and the message of it, which is a good sign in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I mean, you gave a different perspective to others, and that's definitely worth noting. Jazakallah khair.
Sure. Wayakum.
So, Brother Faisal gave a very interesting perspective, and that's something I can expand upon later. So, anybody who's spoken, please leave the studio because there's other people trying to enter. So, next we will go to Umair Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, brother. How you doing?
First of all, I'm a huge fan of you, Sabur Bhai. Like literally, I know this is off topic, but I'm gonna make it quick. Second of all, Jordan Peterson, I believe he is a very intellectual individual. He's very highly intellectual, and Islam is one religion that attracts intellectuals to its core. There's no way if you're an intellectual and you read and you study Islam, you hear about it to an extent to where Jordan Peterson has been exposed to Islam. I've seen his other podcast with Muhammad Hijab as well, who I'm also a big fan of, Muhammad Hijab, and not only does he understand the depth of the core principles of Islam, I think he's also fascinated by what Islam brings to the table, in contrast to not only the other religions, but many other ideologies in the world, including atheism. Uh, but I think Jordan Peterson is, inshallah, like, I mean, Islam is a religion that is open to anyone from any source, any walk of life, any background, and any ethnicity. But I think Jordan Peterson himself, I think, is very fascinated by Islam itself. He just doesn't like to admit that in the open for whatever reason. It's his that's his personal stuff that he has to deal with. But And I pray and I believe that he's very, very on track with Islam, and I believe, inshallah, one day he will enter the fold of Islam, and that which will also cause like a domino effect, where other people will follow his lead. uh, because sometimes you need a little bit of a push from someone that you look up to, or someone that you admire. And I believe that he's on the right path, and one day, inshallah, he will be the cause of many people to revert to Islam, inshallah. Thank you,
Inshallah.
Sabu Bhai. I really love you. I really love your work. I really admire you as a person. I look up to you as well. Just wanted to take this opportunity to,
Alhamdulillah.
you know,
Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you.
thank you so much for whatever you do. And inshallah, hopefully one day I get to see you. But
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum for now.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair for your thoughts, Brother Umair. Different to what we've heard so far. And I do believe, like other Orientalists in the past and other historians and academics, he is interested in Islam. I do believe he is. So thank you, Brother Omer, for joining the stream. And if you've, Brother Omer, if you can leave the studio, please. Thank you so much, because we're trying to make room for other people. We will now go to Samir Kamal.
Brother Sabur, can you hear me, bro?
Yes, I can. How you doing, Brother Samir?
Assalamu alaikum, my brother. I'm good. What about you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well.
Man, I'm so happy to talk to you. Like, for real though. First of all, I wanna like appreciate what you're doing and all of the brothers. Like, at some point I was like kind of losing my faith, and after watching you and learning about other religions, and alhamdulillah, strengthened my faith. That's all I've been doing, and I got very interested in studying theology and philosophy, anthropology, all of that because of you guys. May Allah bless you. يجعل في ميزان حسناتك, my brother.
Ameen. Ameen. Ya Allah.
Yes, to get straight to the point, Jordan Peterson is a very interesting guy. Like, he has a lot of influence on a lot of people in different aspects. And him being interested in Islam, actually, as the brother said, might have a dominant effect for people to study more and know about Islam the correct way, instead of the stereotypical narrative that we have all over the internet and in the Western media. So I haven't actually seen the the video with Muhammad Hijab that just dropped, but what I can tell is that he was invited to like directly to Islam, I guess, and they had this kind of interview.
Yeah.
And yeah, my question is, a person like him with a huge fan base and a lot of influence, even when presented by a lot of evidence and the truth and the truth about Islam directly, I believe like he's interested and he genuinely knows that this could be the truth. I believe that, but what kind of an what kind of an issue a person like him might have when he's faced with all of these evidence and he still don't want to accept? I mean, would he be like not accepting because of his image, or because sometimes people would know the truth but they can't still declare it or accept it. So long story short, when talking to a person like that who is kind of intellectually sophisticated and all of that, um, I mean, everything, Allah can do everything, but what is the, because I have a lot of friends that I'm trying to do da'wah to, right?
Yeah.
And they seem and claim to be intellectually sophisticated, and they read a lot, and they have very open mind. But sometimes there is this issue that someone will get his ego around declaring the truth. So I'm really sorry for taking a bit long time, but what do you think? How can you deal with someone with this stance? And thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair, Brother Samir. I'm just going to add people because I'm trying to give everybody 1 minute, and
Sure,
I'll answer
sure.
your question as we're I'll try and answer it as we move along.
May Allah bless you, and thank you so
Ameen.
much, Sober. I'm really happy again, and I
Alhamdulillah.
really appreciate what you guys doing. You literally save lives and bring
Alhamdulillah.
people back to God. Thank you, bro.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. So yeah, Brother Samir was, speaking about why he doesn't accept, despite things coming forward to him. From what I remember, but what Brother Samir was saying. Thing is, I like what one of the speakers previously said, which is that person will not necessarily accept the truth there and then. It takes time, effort. It's a process. I like that. I'm very hopeful of not only him but his followers, people who follow him, people who are looking for the truth, people who don't accept nihilism. So everybody that's trying to join the stream, I'm going to try and give everybody 1 minute. So please try and keep to your times. Next we'll go to Brother Muhammad Ali. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I can add you later if your mic is working. Assalamu alaikum, Dark Knight.
Walaikum salam.
Give us
Can you
your
hear
1
me?
minute summary, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So one thing that I noticed about Jordan Peterson is that he seems to approach the faith from the direction of the followers of the faith, the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something that he expresses in the end of the podcast. He says that he sees the religion through how it shines through the followers. And that's something that he also mentioned during his controversial video, his message to Muslims. It seems that the approach to Dawah to someone like Jordan Peterson will have to be different in order to get the message to him, because he isn't really engaging with the faith itself, with the scriptures, with the tradition. Instead, he's engaging with the Muslims, and it seems like he's mostly learning the faith from his interactions with Muslims.
Okay. Interesting perspective. I'm not sure what I can add to that. Perhaps you're right. He needs a different approach, or perhaps his approach is wrong, and we need to continue down the line of just sticking to why Islam is true. So thank you so much, Dark Knight, for your contribution. We'll next move to Brother Aran Heather. Welcome, Brother Aran. Please unmute your mic and give us your 1 minute summary. A lot of people are trying to enter this video, guys. I'm trying to welcome salam, trying to keep up with the demand.
I didn't expect to get my turn, actually.
How you doing, Brother Aran? You okay?
Alhamdulillah, Brother Sabu. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah.
So about your topic, well, I think regarding Jordan Peterson, he's an individual, and we do not know what's in his heart, yeah. But giving him dawah is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people look up to him. So giving them a relative perspective with Muhammad hijab and seeing the Muslim Islamic perspective on the topic, it's a good thing for people, because some might be, the way he speaks, it's very intriguing. Like, he's a good speaker. Yeah. So you need to have a perspective with the Muslim to relatively check and balance between the two opinions to know which one is, potentially better. So that's a good thing. And also for the non-Muslim audience, they could, evaluate between the two, see which one is more sincere. And yeah, it's the actual process is a good thing that's happening. The outcome is not, we're not responsible for the outcome. That's upon Allah. We do what we have with good intentions, and that's it.
Absolutely. And I really love what you said, Brother Aran, that everybody deserves the dawah.
Yeah. Yeah, we do not know.
I think this is important. A lot of people are upset at his political stances, and something recently happened, and there was a whole reaction to that. And The fact is, everybody deserves the dawah. So we have to separate the two things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. You have to separate the two things. So thank you so much, brother Aran Heather,
Thank you, brother.
for your contribution. Next,
you
we
too, brother.
go to Mahbub.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Wa alaikum salam. How you doing, brother Mahbub?
Alhamdulillah, good. I've been listening to Jordan Peterson for the past, or I don't listen to Jordan Peterson, but when he did the interview with Muhammad Hijab, I was listening to what he was saying, and I also watched parts of the clips of this recent interview he did. And the original interview that I saw, it just seemed like Jordan Peterson was kind of, what do you call it? It sounded like he was sort of afraid of how, like, the Muslim influence that was like taking over in the Western world. He wanted, like, Muhammad Hijab to clarify to him that Islam wasn't like bad. Like, there would influence of Islam was spreading, but but it wasn't in a bad way. And I think Jordan Peterson sort of sees Islam as a threat to the Western world in the sense that his cultural norms are being like eroded by influence of Islam, because Islam spreads fast because of how Muslims spread. And I think Muslims I'm not sure if anyone accepts Islam, it's up to them, and alhamdulillah, that's a good thing. But I don't think we should really go out of our way to pander to non-Muslims just because they say something publicly good about Islam or that aligns with our values. And especially Muslim public figures who have a huge Muslim audience. When you platform people like him, Jordan Peterson, Muslims that watch you guys, especially the youth, they're gonna think this is a person that I should probably watch as well, because like they've been platformed by a Muslim that they watch, that they sort of like look to for information or for like guidance in a way, when it comes to like how to deal with like secular matters, like secular topics and whatnot. So I feel like when Muslims allow these kind of people to be platformed on their platform, it gives them a voice inside the Muslim community. And when they say a few good things, we're happy about it. But then when they say something that we don't like, we're outraged, because like we allowed them to sort of like get into our world, and now we feel like wronged by them saying certain things. So I think Muslims should be careful, especially public figures, when they like allow non-Muslim public figures to be on their platform just because they see a few good things, basically, is what I want to say.
Yeah, I see your concern. There's two sides of this. So there's obviously the side that you mentioned. However, if there's a situation where the Muslims already are following a person like Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson is way bigger than, say, the Muslim that platforms him. And additionally, it's not just the case where they're saying some good things about Islam, but where there's a real potential for the person to be accepting Islam or accepting its principles or this kind of thing. The other, I hope you appreciate on the other side that there's an argument to be made that we need to engage with the other side, because the way the internet is and the way that society is structured at the moment, we can't really have these insular silos. Like there's a lot of cross-pollination and a lot of cross disputation, right? And we kind of have to balance it in the right way. And I think the way to balance it, and I think what Hijab did well in, is by challenging and saying, no, actually, this is the criteria, this is where you're wrong. The Prophet, peace be upon him, is not a warlord, and he took it back. And that's why I think a lot of Muslims, despite what's happened even recently, they do have a good view of him, because he did take back certain things. So brother Mahbub, Jazakallah khair for your comment. There's quite a few people trying to enter the studio, so we're just going to move on, but thank you for your time.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. So now next we go to Abdul Wasi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, Abdul Wasi?
I'm good. Jazakallah khairan for giving me the platform. I just wanted to share a few thoughts that I observed from the podcast. I watched the whole thing. I just finished it just not that long ago. And just my comment was, one thing I noticed with Jordan, maybe he doesn't look at Islam the way we do, in that it's a way of life, or even maybe for Christianity itself, he sees it as a culture. So for him to consider something other than his own European, cultural background that they see Christianity as, they might see Islam as, the other people, or like the brown person type of faith. That, if you were to consider that as maybe betraying his own values, or not values, but maybe his cultural background. I always felt so. I think it's important to, because also the other thing I wanted to also say, that it's important to look at every person on a journey. So that might be a struggle he's facing, and may Allah guide him. If that's the case, may Allah guide him away from that. Because also we had the Prophet's uncle, who had the same issue, where he knew Islam was the truth, but he didn't want to betray his, his when Abu Jahl was talking to him, kind of, how can you betray your father's religion and so on. So he's holding on to his cultural belief, maybe that he values that more than what he sees other things that maybe we see in Islam. And the other thing, I think it's important not to focus on Jordan, but maybe the people that are also listening, it might be someone who is, they might pick out a few things that he's a follower of Jordan, and maybe we can, if we target a wider audience as opposed to Jordan, even though he has a large platform, I think other people also speaking to other people through him. Someone else might hear what Muhammad Hijab is talking about, and he might like something about it. He might take that journey, and he might start his own journey and go on. So I don't think we should necessarily target himself. We should also look beyond him and people who are behind him. And ultimately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides. And maybe if Jordan Peterson is not the one who Allah guides, it could be 100 other people that nobody knows about, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, that also get the guidance. So I just wanted to point out, but my main point was that cultural issue that Jordan might be battling with himself, that he doesn't want to communicate. That's also possibly one thing. But Jazakallah khair, that's all I wanted to share.
Jazakallah khair, Abdul Basi. What you said reminded me of an atheist who, after a debate, we had a discussion with him, a debate between a Muslim and an atheist, and he was an atheist who was hosting the actual debate. He was the sort of person who's coordinating as well. And he said, I can see that Muslims have a lot of young followers. Islam is a young religion, and that sort of made him, I guess, jealous or this kind of thing. And he also said that if I was to believe in God, I'd go back to Christianity because my ancestors were Christian. And he was a very proud sort of English person, right?
Yeah.
So that element, we don't know whether
exactly, it could be an eternal battle he has, right?
Yeah.
So
I hope not, because I think he's more intelligent than
seems genuine. Yeah, he seems genuine. But I mean, even the Jews of Medina at the time of Prophet ﷺ, they knew he was a prophet, but the fact that he wasn't a Jew, it was a big problem for them. How can God send this person out? Anyway, Jazakallah khair. I won't take much time, but I just wanted to share that.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, before I add the other guests, I'm just going to play a little bit more of this clip to get your brain juices going.
Sense of believing the doctrines and all that kind of thing. Like, we obviously don't believe in original sin or the resurrection, the crucifixion, all this kind of thing. We don't believe in any of that. Or the Trinity, of course. But in the sense that we do believe in Jesus Christ, we believe in all of the Old Testament prophets, most of them, if not all of them, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and so on. And we believe that each prophet was sent with two things: the message, which is to believe in worship in one God, and some kind of evidence to indicate their truthfulness. So with, for example, Moses and Jesus, we know what their miracles are, splitting the sea, and we believe that actually happened historically, right? We have no qualms with that. We don't have this kind of materialistic viewpoint on the issue. With Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we believe that because he was sent to all of humanity, he had to have an evidence base that would satisfy not just the eyes. In other words, it wouldn't be just something that could be witnessed. It would be something that can be interrogated and scrutinized for all times and places. So it would be an auditory revelation. In this case, it's the Quran. The Quran means a recitation, yeah? So the central message of the Quran is Tawheed, or the idea of worshiping one God and believing in one God, as we've mentioned. But there is an attempt in the Quran to challenge, like, for example, there's something called the falsification test or the inimitability test. The Quran says, for example, that try and find a contradiction within the Quran had it been from other than God, لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا, they would have found in it many contradictions. It's this inimitability challenge is to produce something as sophisticated as it in terms of the linguistic composition as well as the structural component. This is very interesting because now even Western academics like Angelica Neuris and others have said that this challenge has not been met. It's a German Orientalist. She's recently said this. So this is another thing. And then you have a range of prophecies, for example. Like if you look at Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 21, it's mentioned in the Bible that one of the hallmarks of a true prophet is that, or a false prophet is that when they talk about the future, that it will be false. But the Quran makes very specific prophecies about the future. For example, in chapter 30, verse 2 to 4, it says, غُلِبَتِ الرُّومُ فِي أَدْنَى الْأَرْضِ وَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ غَلَبِهِمْ سَيَغْلِبُونَ. That the Romans had been defeated. At that time, there was the Sassanid Empire and the Roman Empire, and they were in war with each other. And that from 3 to 9 years, that they would defeat the enemy, you see? It gave very specific timelines, it gave very specific, and this was a very risky type of prediction, because if you got it wrong, then it would endanger and undermine the entire prophethood of the Prophet Muhammad. But it did happen, and in fact, you'll find historical things which are not even in the Quran.
Rome was defeated?
That the Romans had been defeated by the Persians in a battle. Yeah. Okay. And so it's mentioned in, for example, the Chronicles of Theophanes, which is a primary source material outside of the Quran and Sunnah. You can find it now, it's even translated into English. He clearly mentions that 8 years after this particular prediction took place, it did happen like that. So we have a range of predictions, even that relate to the current day. The Prophet said that the barefooted Arab, they will be competing for the highest building. That sexually transmitted diseases would be proliferated as a result of people having intercourse outside of marriage, and that this would be something that would be diseases that had never been there in the past. The interest-based economy that we live in is mentioned by the Prophet Muhammad. I said in the future, interest will be everywhere. Whoever does not consume it, he will not be able to evade its dust. So this is another thing. So for example, you've got a range of prophecies where Islam will spread country by country. Where, this is mentioned, he's going to go, there's a hadith that says, Zuwiya li al-ard, that the earth has been expanded for me. فَرَأَيْتُ مَشَارِقَهَا وَمَغَارِبَهَا, I saw its west points and east points. وَإِنَّ أُمَّتِي سَيَبْلُغُ مُلْكُهَا, and my nation will reach its points, مَا زُوِيَ لِي مِنْهَا, what was projected, and it's saying east and west. If you look at the Islamic expansion, Barnaby Rogerson, who is a historian, he said that the similitude of the Muslims going eastward and westward and conquering the amount of countries that they conquered in that early period, which you can read in the book that I've given you, is like Eskimos taking over Russia and America. That's what he said, Barnaby Rogerson. On the point of prophecies, even people like Edward Gibbons, they agree that the prophecies of the Quran had been met.
So I have to ask.
Yeah.
So I don't understand the question exactly.
He wants to know if you will convert to Islam.
No, I'm saying that. No, that wasn't.
I mean, that's the question. Well, look, I would say to some degree, it's not up to me.
No, but my question was, just to remind you, the question was, if I gave you evidence that would satisfy a certain level of probabilistic.
No.
So you wouldn't.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. I just love that part. I'm just gonna play that again. That's just too funny.
That would satisfy a certain level of probabilistic.
No.
So you wouldn't.
That is hilarious. Allahu Akbar.
Subhanallah.
So let's go to brother Muhammad Ali first. What do you think about this, Akhi?
Assalamu alaikum, Sabur bhai. Yes, Sabur bhai, I'm just a a person. I'm not here like a really intelligent guy or a well-versed guy. I can't even articulate my thoughts here properly. But I have by seeing this short video, I can't actually fully give my point of view, but the few points which came to my mind, I've just made a list of things. So the first point is that I don't see the same JP we saw in the first interview with Muhammad Hijab. So that guy was very like coming from a humble like a humble approach and a humble point of view. Over here, it's a totally a different guy, and yeah, the way he said no, which shows that that he has a fixed approach to the whole thing. And the other point is even like if you see like the known the bestseller author like Gary Wills. So yeah, so even he actually yeah shut even he even even he was willing to like declare that he was totally ignorant about like Islam and the Quran, and thus he wrote his book, and 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 he made sure that he was giving like true like justice to and wherever he went, he gave and he told people in his interview. The first thing like, he said that he was like totally like ignorant about Islam and by not yet reading the Quran. Yes, we do, and the third point is yes, we do believe that JP is a intelligent guy and he is like a very well educated and he's like a very much uh, like a lot of your people like look up to him and all, but with intelligence, it's more like a double-edged sword. It can so one person can either you become humble, like in case of Gary Wills, or it can be, it can make it can turn that person into an arrogant person. So I hope and I pray to Allah that I'm wrong and I'm totally wrong, and I want to see the glass half full and not half empty. So that's my point of view. I may be totally wrong.
No.
I hope,
Thank you,
inshallah.
Brother Muhammad. You started off your sort of summary of the Jordan Peterson talk by saying your perspective is a layman and you're not sure, but you actually gave a very good perspective, and I think you shouldn't short sell yourself. I do believe that there is a huge problem when it comes to being very intellectual, because it can lead to arrogance. I'm not accusing him of that, but that's one of the things that it does come across. And I do agree with you totally that we saw different Jordan Peterson in this mosque event than what we saw on the live stream. I think the reason for that is probably because he felt more comfortable this time around, because he knew who Muhammad Hijab was, and he was in a mosque and he was face to face and this type of thing. I think that was probably why he was acting in a very different way. But thank you so much for your perspective, but don't short sell yourself next time, because you do have something very interesting to say.
Thank you so much, and I I can love you all.
Alhamdulillah, love you too.
Like for the sake of Allah, and please give my I can love to all the your brothers over there, brother Muhammad Hijab, brother Hamza, and brother Ali Dawah.
Jazakallah khair, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Okay, next we will go to Brother Tariq Ali. Please give us your 1 minute perspective on this discussion.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So the way that I see it, so like Jordan Peterson, it really comes down to a problem of like his intelligence, I think, because sort of he has lived his whole life as a deep-rooted Christian, and so his whole belief system is based off of that single premise. And as soon as he accepts Islam, he sort of has to reset his life and then reset his whole entire framework of life, which is a very difficult step for a lot of people, and also like the social circles that he's in. And at the end of the day, it's sort of like his test, right? Where will he choose to submit to the truth, even though that he was wrong, and like admit that he was wrong in the past, or will he continue the way he's living his life right now,
Yeah.
even when presented with proof? Yeah, so that's like the way I see it, as like his test, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best what's in his heart, and if he's sincere in his pursuit for truth, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to guide him, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. It is very difficult if your paradigm is such that you're looking for validation from society, and then you have to change your identity from that society to a different society. I'm not saying this is his problem, but I see exactly what you're saying. For some people, it's not what's true, it's what society they're in, what identity they believe about themselves, what identity is the norm in that society, and then turning to something totally alien. Although I do think on the flip side, it's not a totally hopeless situation, because if someone is sincere, the truth is so powerful, it can just make even the most meekest person into a lion, and they can go against the society and accept Islam. So thank you so much for your perspective, Brother Tariq Ali. Next, we will go to Brother Salman.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Actually, I'm not very good in English, but I'm gonna say what I can say.
Sure.
I saw the video between hijab and Jordan. Actually, I don't know like why Jordan like he's not Muslim. I think he's no he is like I think he believe in Islam, just like there's something is stopping him. I don't know what is this thing. Like there's some atheists like they say they believe but they can't take the step to say the shahada. I don't know why, but I think there's something he doesn't want to say. Maybe I don't know. He's like there's something he's stopping him, and like if he become Muslim, it's gonna be like a huge trend. Really, it's gonna be like a huge trend.
Yeah.
Many, of course, like many atheists, they're gonna say like, I don't know what they're gonna say. Maybe they will say like they give him money because they give him money, then he become Muslim. They're gonna say like something like that. But and if you say to Jordan now, like if you meet him and say, "Yo, Jordan Peterson, you need to take now one religion. You need to choose now." I think he will say Islam. Like I think he will say, if I need to take a religion, I will take Islam. But the question, this is like the last thing. I have one question. When Muhammad Hijab asked him about the evidence, do you will believe or no? Why did he say no? He said no because what?
Yeah. Thank you for your contribution, Brother Salman. I can't say why, and that's why I'm talking to everybody. I'm getting everyone's perspective.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's an open question. I do like what one of the speakers said earlier, that sometimes it's not about giving the person one chance, but it's like a process. It's not a one-off thing where you speak to someone about the truth and then they accept it. Maybe that's what's going on.
Okay, thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Next, we will go to Brother Muhammad Rafai. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How you doing?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, I can. How you doing, bro?
Yes, alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. First of all, brother Sabur, I just want to say I really like your content and your approach to evolution in general. I found it very helpful.
Alhamdulillah.
But I just want to say, like, I feel like people are giving Jordan Peterson just a little bit too hard of a time. Like, I don't think he's actually gonna like convert like off of a small interview. Obviously, I respect the approach, but I think at the end of the day, he's just being honest, and I respect that. I think the bigger goal is to connect with his audience, and obviously has a big audience, and showing that Islam is okay and like obviously relatable. And I think there's bigger problems that we need allies, I guess, from Jordan Peterson. Is like speaking for me, for myself in America. Like there are much bigger problems than like people not respecting Muslims. Like I feel like there's general respect for Muslims. I feel like the bigger problem is like all the left ideology is like really seeping in everywhere, and I feel like allying ourselves with like other people, not just Muslims, is important because it's really like egregious at this point.
Yeah, I do resonate with what you're saying in terms of Muslims are sort of being a little bit harsh, like, okay, why didn't he accept when hijab said this, or expecting him to do a U-turn in terms of his entire belief system just because of one conversation. There's also the fact that we are trying to reach out to his audience, right? He has a huge audience. As brother Asadullah Andalusi said, that he pretty much took half of new atheism, right? So that kind of thing. And I really like what you said about his audience, because at the end of the day, our prophet, the prophet, peace be upon him, he focused on influentials, he focused on kings, he focused on people with power. Why? Because they have followers. So why wouldn't we engage with him? Now, of course, we don't agree with him politically. We don't agree with him in so many things. Some Muslims are commenting, why are you interested in this kafir? The Quran and Sunnah is enough. That kind of sentiment, right? And it's like, no, here's a person who has a massive following amongst non-Muslims, has a massive following amongst Muslims, a person who new atheists hate because he's talking about nihilism and existentialism and all this kind of stuff. Why on earth wouldn't we engage with him despite these differences? I really like what you said there.
And I think he did say at one point in the interview that a lot of people told him like you shouldn't talk to Muhammad Hijab because like there was rumors, obviously they were false or whatever. But like he still went and took this like conversation. That's respectable, like a lot of people wouldn't even do that. So
they wouldn't do that at all. Absolutely.
Anyways, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair, brother Muhammad Rufai. Next, we will go to Farsi Turkey.
Yeah, Fasih. You can just say Fasih. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How you doing?
I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. How are you, brother Sapur?
Very good.
I'm the physicist, by the way, who enjoys the talks of Dr. Nelson so much. I mean, they are Paul. They're really great. So I want to say a few things. The first one is the last point you mentioned, which is, why you're talking to that kafir. I think that's just a silly point because, I mean, how are people made Muslim? I mean, you have to have contact. If that would have been the mentality of the Prophet, I'm a Hanif, but why would I care about people? We wouldn't be here. And also to the brother who said he's a layperson, alhamdulillah, we are all laypersons. I mean, we don't have clericism, we don't have these things, so inshallah. But I mean, people say he's intellectual and analytic, but it appears to me, especially, even his introduction was very weird and kind of emotional. He's saying, I hope to make start a conversation playfully, or I threw myself into it without thinking too deeply in it, and I think that shows he wants to get something done, but he's not really that analytic about the things he's doing. And also he has a general interest in many things. I mean, his Carl Jung comment, he says, look where you expect things the least. And he's talked to a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. So I don't think it's something special about Islam. So I think we have to give him some respite there, and to evaluate all the things that coming to him, and lots of different sources. And everyone has a different access, as brother said, and we see this with the Sahaba. You don't have just the rational sort of I give you probabilistic, as brother Hijab is always doing, which is good, and some people are strengthened and invited, but at the end of the day, it has to be the heart. The Prophet, when he invites the people in the Quran, he says, in kuntum tuhibbun Allah fattabi'uni yuhibbukum Allah. So he has to have this spark of love and of truth seeking, this investigativeness, in order to really get there. And I think we have to invite with akhlaq. That's what's one point. And brother Hijab knows sometimes he's going out there. I mean, his Ali Dawah comment was a bit weird, about his IQ. I don't know whether you remember that point. I think in such a situation, we should be very humble and not insult one another, although it was all playful and cheerful, And the other things I find speculative, whether he's done it for publicity, we don't know about. He could be rejecting it due to Abu Jahl reasons, he knows it, but he just, because he has this superiority, this Western kind of thinking, at the end of the day, we really don't know. And, quite frankly, he doesn't even subscribe wholeheartedly to Christianity. He's very heterodox, on that front too. And when he's asked about purpose, and he goes and says, unity, uniformity, but then Hijab gives a bit of back push, and then he doesn't have a coherent narrative, formed for himself, what he wants to do with his life, what he wants to, where he wants to be. And I think maybe that's indicative of some mental or creedal, instability. But Allahu Alam, I think he's doing his best. He's trying something, and at the end of the day, even in his own philosophy, he's not that sure. What he said to Sam Harris, the peril comment. I do agree with brother Muhammad Hijab 100%. That's a weird thing to say for you, if you're sure in your own positions. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's very interesting insights you've put forward. I think one of the things to keep in mind is the whole processual perspective when it comes to dawah, because like you said, different things work with different people. So clearly the propositional stuff was just not working.
Yeah, of course.
Not interested at all in that. I am very hopeful though, because I do think what you said earlier about, how would people be Muslim if we weren't engaging with the other side? So, this whole section of Muslims who are just like, oh, ignore him. He's just an atheist. He's not atheist. He's just he's a Zionist. He's this, he's that, whatever. How are we going to reach out to the other side if we have this kind of condescending sort of attitude, and almost this idea that people aren't going to accept Islam? People have accepted Islam from the enemies of Islam for 1400 years. We've had the Mongols, we've had the Quraysh, we've had the Persians, Romans. So I think that's a very important point as well.
I think it's also fearful to a degree, not just condescending. People think we will engage with more and more. Some Muslims are just insecure about their own things, and then have the fear of reaching out. But if you have the sort of certainty that this is haqq, only for the love of spreading haqq, you have to do it. So thank you, brother Sapur. Keep doing what you're doing.
Next, we'll go to Professor Another Letter.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, brother.
Can you hear me, Habibi?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
Bro, I just want to say I'm a huge fan. Right?
Yeah.
No, bro, you don't get it. Like a huge fan. Like I've been watching you since I've been like 15. I'm 20. I'm 20.
No,
but I've
really?
been watching you for so long.
Young guy, mashallah.
Yeah, I'm a fanboy. So,
Oh, that's not a good term. I
uh,
really don't like
why not?
I don't like
Okay.
that term at all.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So, about
What's your
Jordan
perspective,
Peterson.
Aki? What's your perspective?
Yeah, bro, like Jordan Peterson, like I don't know about you, but he's clearly two-faced, right? He has an agenda, which is to normalize the thing, right? Normalize Zionism. It's kind of so obvious.
Okay, so here's a question to you, right?
Yeah.
Do you think his positions are categorical, or do you think that most of his positions can be changed?
Oh, obviously, yeah. I mean, I mean, there's some point where he can't afford to be embarrassed, right? But he's not gonna engage with someone telling him about like the war crimes of Israel, because he's gonna make his like Daily Wire like billionaire funder mad, right? That's how I see it.
Wouldn't you say that, like, I mean, I'm seeing comments or questions about, you know, the Aqsa visit and all this stuff, but I think the two things are completely separate. So his political stances and, you know, all of that stuff, that's very different to him being a public influencer who we need to give dawah to and then give dawah to his followers, right? I think these two things should be kept separate. What do you think?
I understand, but like the fact that he's taking such an absurd position, which is obviously like it's because of money. He's taking that position that shows he's insincere, right? So we can't rely on his insincerity.
It could be, look, it could be a multi-causal, right? Why he has a particular political stance. But I'm just going to go back to what I said earlier, and I think this is good that we're having this conversation. Why, in the discussion between Hijab and Jordan Peterson, does the political aspects of what he has done or what he subscribes to or is supposed to subscribe to relevant? Because if you look at this conversation, it was the most clearest dawah that he was given. And there's actually some parts which in the final footage were not there. So when he first came to the mosque, coins were given to him from the Umayyad period, and he was given a book on Jesus and Islam. He's given a translation of the Quran. He listened to the recitation of the Quran about Isa alayhi salam with translation. He saw the prayer that happened afterwards. He stayed for the prayer. He sat in the back. Hamza Sotsi has explained to him what the prayer is and the spiritual aspects of it. And, you know, all those things, they weren't really there in the video because obviously the video couldn't be hours and hours long. So that way because I was there at the event, the way I saw it was all of that political stuff, which happened afterwards and even previously, whatever he subscribed to, for me, that's like, let's just keep that separate to the dawah we want to give him. And then we keep the politics separately to the theological aspect, because what's more important is for us to get him and his followers and people of influence like him to understand Islam and accept Islam. That's way more important than to start having these political discussions, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but that could. So you would do this kind of strategy with literally anyone. Would you say that?
I'll give you an example. I've interacted with, you know, Jewish people who are very staunch in terms of their, you know, belief about Israel, and they are atheists. Now, I'm not going to start just debating them about Israel when they're atheists. I'm going to talk to them about God. I'm going to talk to them, invite them to Islam, right? That's what I should be doing. Likewise, if there's a you know, a person who just wants to talk about Islam and terrorism and Islam and misogyny and Islam and, you know, not giving women's rights, I'm going to steer the entire conversation towards why Islam is true, right? Rather than getting into these things. Because I think one of our problems is we don't have the Dawah mindset. The Dawah mindset is everything is noise except getting the person to understand our paradigm. Because once they understand our paradigm, all of these things go away. If he becomes Muslim, of course, he will support our perspective politically. If he becomes Muslim, of course, all of those qualms that we have, all of these, criticism we have of him politically will go away. It's so much more important to, give him the dawah rather than think, okay, maybe his intention is this, maybe his intention is that, he's not sincere. We don't know. But what we do know is that it's so important to give people like this the message of Islam, because look, Jordan Peterson, he's got what, 5 million people on his subscriber base, right? Those are hardcore followers. They're going to watch this video, and perhaps for the first time in their life, they will hear about Tawheed. For the first time in their life, they may hear about Jesus and Islam. So these things are way more important. I mean, there's Muslims out there, some Muslims out there who don't even want this conversation to happen because of his political stance. Yet the consequences of basically boycotting him and saying, no, we're not going to talk to you, is what so many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people over the course of years who follow him will not get the message of Islam as a consequence of his political position. That's kind of ridiculous, isn't it? Shouldn't we just focus on the dawah, and the political side of things shouldn't be a reason not, because everyone deserves the dawah. Musa alayhi salam didn't say to Pharaoh, I'm not going to give you dawah because you politically did X, Y, and Z. Do you see my point?
Yeah.
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 Thank you, Professor. I just realized we've been talking for a while, but there's a lot of people waiting in the studio. So we'll talk again, inshallah,
No problem.
sometime in the future. I'm going to start doing more live streams, so hopefully we'll meet again. Jazakallah khair, Professor. We'll go to Faisal Salim. Actually, no, Zaid Gamal was first. I've forgotten. Apologies.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, brother Zaid. How you doing?
How are you, brother Sabur?
Good.
I really appreciate you, and I'm a really huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to comment on a couple of things. Firstly, is his blatant no that he said.
And that was hilarious.
Yeah.
No.
As-
That was hilarious.
Yes, yeah. So I'd like to remind everyone that like many of the first Sahaba were at first opposed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his da'wah.
Absolutely.
Like for example, Umar ibn al-Khattab. So
Yes.
we shouldn't like pass judgment on his first. Maybe he's just afraid of what this means on his worldview and what we would change. So we can only do our part and deliver the message, and Allah guides whom He wills. The second thing that I see a lot of people talking about are his intentions. And like, as a matter of fact, we don't know his intentions. Only Allah knows his intentions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There is like, we can say like a worst case and like a best case scenarios. Like the worst case scenarios is just like brainwashed by like the people at the Daily Wire, and all of this like facade of Muslims and Jews and Christians accepting each other is just to accept the Zionist state, for example.
Yeah.
This could be like the worst case, which we don't know, so we shouldn't like assume that this is a fact.
Yeah.
And the best case is like he's a genuine truth seeker, and
Yeah.
he genuinely sees the benefits of us uniting together. So like, and if this is what he genuinely thinks, I think that a big problem comes from that he doesn't know Islam, and he hasn't read the Quran or the Seerah. And this is the step that he should take. Not like, we can only do so much by giving dawah. He should take the steps and know Islam better. I feel.
Absolutely. Brother Ziad, I couldn't have put it in a better way. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here to give the dawah. If we begin, like, okay, if I begin by looking at an object which I need to lift, and I tell myself this object is too heavy for me to lift, or it's pointless, I'm not even going to try and lift that object.
Correct.
Likewise, if you have a belief that this person is insincere, they are malicious, and this and this and that, you're not even going to bother giving them dawah. And if you are going to give them dawah, it's going to be in a very insincere way. You're just going to be like, oh, see, he's not accepting. The fact is, it's a process. there are people today, I have friends today who are Muslim and they converted to Islam. They never accepted Islam the first time around. You know, they sometimes argued against Islam. I remember I was speaking to a brother from Nicaragua in Central America, and his first interaction with Islam was to try and refute it. And to
Yeah,
try,
yeah.
you know, that was his intention. So, you know, we could say, well, you know, this guy is insincere, no point talking to him. But, you know, people carried on giving him dawah, and today he gives dawah in Nicaragua, and people are accepting Islam with him. So,
So
you know,
whatever his intentions, good or bad, I think the dawah and Kalamullah can get to him.
Yep.
I think we should always keep giving dawah, and Allah guides whom He wills.
Yep, absolutely. Jazakallah khair, brother.
Thank you, brother Sabur. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Next, we go to Faisal Salim.
I would prefer listening to Khalilullah, brother, and then later on I can. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you doing, brother Khalil?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I was glad to see you live.
MashaAllah. Good to see you too. What time is it over in the States now?
For me, I'm in Eastern, so it's 6:47 right now.
Okay. Yeah. That's oh yeah, it's nearly midnight here, so about 6 hours behind. No wonder why you look so fresh and I look smashed.
I stay up all night and then pretty much sleep during the day as much as I can, but we're really busy over at EA Dawah, so we got a lot of stuff that we have to try and do. I'm actually going to be going live for a 4-hour stream here in a couple hours. But yeah, I just wanted to come up and kind of briefly comment on the video, because I did see a portion of the video to where Muhammad Hijab was speaking with him, with Jordan Peterson. And I completely agree with you, brothers, that you know, we do not know people's intentions. And I always take it back to the father of Abu Bakr. Once the revelation started, it took 21 years for the man to accept Islam. Did anybody give up giving dawah to him? Did anybody say, hey, halas, like we're done? No, they continued to give dawah to this man, and he eventually accepted Islam. And mashallah. So I don't think that we should jump to conclusions, especially off of political stances. I don't think that giving dawah has much to do with that. You know, we need to go out and we need to give give what we believe is the truth to anybody as much as we can. Now, obviously, once they start, being disrespectful and saying things about our prophet or our mother Aisha or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, now, obviously, you're supposed to kind of disengage from that conversation. But as long as they're willing to listen, we should be providing them as much of the truth as we can. Because, for example, like you said, Jordan Peterson has a huge following, and that huge following has never heard this stuff before. They've never heard the conception of Jesus not being God, especially in the Western world. When people think Jesus, they think God, astaghfirullah. But, so I think it's very important for us to be able to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, if you really want to change someone's political stance, you need to change their worldview. So say, like, I remember I had a conversation with some Israeli Jews who were atheists, right? In Speaker's Corner. Now, if my approach was, let me just debate them about Israel, they would never, come around to our perspective. But when it comes to speaking to him about God, because they didn't even believe in God, they were atheists. Say they started believing in God and then believing in Islam, then of course they would be sympathetic to the Muslim cause. So, these things are very, very important. We kind of conflate the two. We're like, like, for example, in this building in Crown House, there's a guy who's from Texas, right? He's like a typical Texas guy, with that heavy accent, and he's like a Trump supporter and this kind of thing. There's no point me going up to him and saying, well, Trump is this or that, or just talk to him about Islam. That's all you have to do. You talk to him about Islam. And then when he becomes Muslim, inshallah, then, his political stance will change. So I'm not saying that, we should ignore someone's political stance and we should not take, say that it's wrong. I'm just saying, it shouldn't stop us from giving dawah. Dawah has to be done to every single human being, right? Even if that human being, like Fir'aun, Allah knew that he was not going to accept Islam, yet he was still given the chance. So that's what it's about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. MashaAllah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, brother.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, brother Khalil, for your entry into the live stream. Jazakallah khair.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, brother. You guys have a wonderful day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Subscribe to EA Dawah.
That's what you do. That's what you do. Yeah. So how you doing, brother Faisal?
Alhamdulillah, I joined quite back. Like I was the second speaker. I gave my opinion that this is the part of process. I just joined to just add a bit more on the comment of the idea of holding such discussions.
Could I? So I didn't know you came on before. I forgot. Could I bring in other people because there's loads?
Yeah, sure. You can. Yeah.
Thank you so much, brother Faisal.
You're
So we go to Hunter. Can we go to brother Hunter? And there's Stick as well. I'm just going to remove you, brother Faisal, and add some people. Wa alaikum salam. Stick, how you doing?
How are you, Sabur? Alhamdulillah. So, Jordan Peterson, I don't have much to say about him as an individual, but one part of the discussion stuck out to me. I don't think he went over it, but I watched it on my free time. So, Jordan Peterson said he believes the prophet is a true prophet, but in a different sense. And this got me thinking about like his definition of truth. Jordan Peterson, I think he thinks that truth is what benefits you or benefits society.
Yeah.
But that is completely false in my opinion. Say for example, like if there is a tree in my backyard and that benefits me, I would consider that tree to be true, but that's not the case. If it's there, then it's there, whether it benefits me or not. That was a bad example, but I was just wondering what your thoughts about his definition of truth.
Yeah, he's a pragmatist essentially.
Yeah.
He is somebody who looks at the utility of things as opposed to their intrinsic worth, their intrinsic ontological existence even, right? So for him, even the way he answers the question of belief in God, it's not so much about the reality of God, the metaphysical reality of God. It's more about, well, if you go with the idea of God, your life would be so much better in XYZ.
In the Quran, there's like a verse. I don't know like the Arabic, like I don't have it memorized, but it says stand up to the truth even if it's against yourself. So that basically negates pragmatism or whatever it's called. Even if it goes against you, if it does not benefit you, you should stand up for the truth.
I never thought of that. I never thought of that. That's actually a really good way of putting it. That verse is exactly a negation of pragmatism.
So unless a person drops pragmatism, having a discussion is not going to be like, it's not going to get you anywhere, because even if they agree with you, they have a different definition of like truth basically. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I don't want to take too much time. I just want to say that I admire you as an individual, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah khair, brother Stick. Next, we will go to Shuaib.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. How you, brother Shuaib?
Alhamdulillah, it is Suhaib, but it's fine. حياكم الله بهذا الصبور. بارك الله فيكم. جزاكم الله خير. May Allah reward you. بارك الله فيكم. Just wanted to say, mashallah, nothing more to say. Mashallah, you said everything, you and brothers. But one point that I heard from one of the scholars, which is, subhanAllah, very powerful. He said, من لم تستطع كسبه للدعوة فحيده. If you can't, for example, if you can't make somebody a Muslim, or if you can't make somebody one of your allies, don't let him be your enemy. If you can put him aside in the middle, not my enemy, not in my side, no problem. But at least we don't want to gain more enemies. We don't want to make more enemies. You know, lots of our brothers, mashallah, they have izzah. They are proud being Muslim. So, as you said, if one of, and I'm not talking about personally about Jordan Peterson, I'm talking generally. Any public figure who speaks who speak bad, one thing bad about Islam because they don't understand Islam or because they are brainwashed against Islam, we don't need to rush to make reactions attacking them. We can make, like we can refute them. We can clearly say that they're mistaken. Alhamdulillah, we can make everything clear, but we don't need to make, like these figures our enemies. No, even if you see the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, he reached out to the kings of the Roman, the Persians. He didn't say no, they are the leaders of the kuffar, So he reached out, he tried with them. He tried his best with them. Same with any figure. If you see the Prophet ﷺ, when you read the seerah, like, mashallah, people are accepting Islam, but the Prophet ﷺ used to be happy more with some people because they can affect other people. They can affect their people. And also when you see al-mu'allafa qulubuhum, one of the people that we are giving zakah, the Prophet ﷺ used to give some bad leaders, although he knows that they are bad in some ways, but behind them there are lots of people. So you can consider this point. We can, like when you deal with a person like Jordan Peterson, like any famous person, as I said, if we can't make them our allies, at least, okay, be aside, no problem, be in the middle. We don't need to make you an enemy of Islam. So yeah, this is what I wanted to say.
Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. And the thing you pointed out about make someone who's, say, an enemy of Islam, make them less of an enemy, right? And even if he was an enemy, of course he isn't. This reminds me of the Battle of Hunain, in which there was a lot of war booty, there was a lot of animals, a lot of livestock. One scholarly opinion is that's the equivalent today of, I don't know how much $1 million, right? And the Prophet ﷺ gave nothing to the Ansar, but he gave to the mushriks who didn't even participate in the battle to bring their hearts closer to Islam. And after the conquest of Makkah, some of the Qurayshi leaders who were very new in Islam, and some of them whose Islam was a bit, let's just say beginning, whose political allegiance was, not solid, they were financially supported, exactly like you said.
You're right, subhanAllah.
So why, the dawah is call people to Islam, make people hate Islam less, or make people not hate Islam at all, even if they don't accept Islam. So, that perspective I think is very important. So thank you so much, brother Shuaib. Are you calling from Egypt?
No, I'm here in UK, but originally I'm from Libya.
Oh, you're from Libya, but your name says I thought it said Al-Misri, but
near from Al-Misri.
Okay.
Al-Mismar, yeah, Al-Mismar.
Jazakallah khair for your comments. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, next we will go to brother Ali.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, brother Sabor? Sorry if you heard like a heavy accent from my English, because my mother tongue is Spanish. I'm from Spain. So anyways, I now invite you and the whole Sapiens team to do a Dawah retreat here in Spain. I think it's time.
Why not? Why not? Let's go Cordoba.
Inshallah, or Granada. That's even more beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful.
Have you been to Spain? Like, I know it's outside of the conversation.
Yes. No, I have. I love it.
Inshallah. We hope you do some Dawah retreat here. So anyways, I've seen the conversation and I was a bit disappointed from Jordan Peterson, because Brother Hijab, was doing some straight questions, like straight right questions, and sometimes Dr. Peterson would start metaphorizing, beating around the bush, giving some strange allegories. Like, for example, the last question that Mohammed Hijab did, the one from the one that was related to, you know, allegories and origin of Alexandria and all that type of thing. Literally, Dr. Peterson didn't answer that question, and I was so disappointed because, you know, like, I know some people are saying no, he was put it on the spot, but when you are a champion of freedom speech, or at least presented as a champion of freedom speech and freedom of thought, you shouldn't be ashamed, or you shouldn't be, someone that tries to run off from questions like that. And I was wondering to myself, and this is a question to you, Sabor, because I know you guys have talked to him in private, and I want, like, this is a question if you want to answer it, and if not, it's okay. Is Dr. Peterson the same in private and in public? I know, like, people have got like a reputation, and he has to like weigh his words. Is he doing this? Is he like being so, I don't know, like abstract or subjective, to say at least, because he has a public image to give, or is he like literally like that? And that's a question for you, brother Sabor.
Obviously, I can't speak from being in contact with him for a long time. What I can say is he came to the mosque. We interacted with him for quite some time, and obviously the talk was one segment of the day. You know, we had him for lunch. We showed him the prayer. He sat in the back. He was, you know, looking at the Muslims praying, and he was interacting with Muslims afterwards. He was shaking hands with the musallis. There's also other instances during the previous discussion of Muhammad Hijab and JP, where prior to the discussion and later after the discussion, we had some I witnessed some interaction. So from my perspective, I would say yes, he is what you see on camera is what you see off camera. That would be my honest opinion. I don't think he is an insincere person from that perspective. I think he is very much committed to the Western perspective, the Western, experience, and he's very open in a way that many people who are Anglophiles or very charmed by the Western perspective are not. So there's a lot of very good traits he has. So may Allah guide him. But yeah, that's how I'd answer your question, Brother Ali.
I mean, yeah, but there was an instance, and sorry, like, I want to push back on this, an instance in the conversation when he literally like said something in the lines to Brother Hijab, like, why are you bringing up this question? I don't like this type of conversation. And Hijab bring up, I don't know, like some theological point. And it was like kind of disappointed that Hijab was seeking, like, it was about Jesus and the nature of Jesus, like the contradictions between infinite and finite and all that stuff. I was so disappointed. He was like, why do you have to bring this up? Why can't you, like, do you know the part that I'm talking about?
I don't, but I know that's the general thing that he does is when he doesn't like something, he's very open about it. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's much harder to work with an opponent or a person that you're discussing with who doesn't show their cards, who doesn't say what they like and what they don't like, and so that kind of brutal honesty, it can be a little bit off-putting, but it's refreshing and easier to deal with than someone that hides their feelings. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to take any more time. So anyways, I want to invite you for a second time, Brother Sabor, and all the Sapiens Institute team to do a Dawah retreat or a Dawah course here at Spain. You guys are invited. Please do it. We haven't had like formal Dawah activity since almost the fall of Al-Andalus. And yeah, that's it, brother. we love you, and we hope you'll do good, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Wa alaikum assalam. Next, we will go to Brother Muhammad Sharif.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How you doing, brother?
Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, what I maybe wanted to express was what I've learned from Jordan Peterson before. He was always talking about archetypes and connecting the dots, and also from the sense of, even if he talked about Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, he was also talking about the relation between how Jesus is like portrayed or imaged in comparison with the Egypt or the pharaohs and etc.
Yeah.
And I question myself: does he really understand what it means to what a prophet really means, or what is a prophet, and what does it mean if if prophets really existed, and what are the what is the consequence if there are prophets, and what is also if there is news, or in that sense also the Islam. The consequence also if there is not listen to a prophet and not. And I don't know for sure if he truly understands the implications, because the Prophet ﷺ was like his message was very clear, and because he was really clear, it's the question is then, was he honest or not honest? And from that point, I don't really understand how he looks at the world, or what it means to be a prophet in that sense. But I think it should be for him, from his standpoint, important to understand what it means in that sense. But yeah. So I don't know if he truly understands it, because I have this idea of he looks too abstract in a reality. He's too abstract.
Yeah. The thing is, there's different theories of truth. So there's correspondence theory, there's pragmatism, there's coherence, there's semantic. With him, he seems like a pragmatist. So it's not about prophets and what are prophets, the way that we understand them, and the implications of prophets coming with good tidings and warnings. It's more like, for him, these are almost instrumental metaphors to make your life better and more fulfilling and livable and less miserable and less suffering, right? So he doesn't even answer the question of God that clearly, if you look at his other content. So in response to your question, does he really know what a prophet is from our perspective? I think he does. Does he accept that? No, because we come from a correspondence theory of truth, right? When we're speaking about a prophet is corresponding to a reality, right? The statement is corresponding to a reality. For him, it's not that at all. Can he even say with any certainty that prophets existed? I don't know if you'd even agree to that. So yeah, that's the way I would that's the way I would explain it.
Yeah, but that makes it also a little bit difficult, because if you are follow pragmatism, it's not a moral way of dealing with life in that sense, I think, if you only that in that sense. But so the question of because the message is clear, and the Quran came also to separate truth from falsehood. it's like it's in that sense also because we have clear it's not like the Bible in that sense, but we have clear message that we can say the Prophet ﷺ said this exactly in this way, and this is what really happened in that in this time. So or the Prophet ﷺ is lying or is saying the truth, and make up your mind in that sense. So that's in a way how I look at it, but I don't. But he looks at another way at it. So what you said also.
Yeah.
Khair, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, brother Muhammad Sharif.
Assalamu alaikum. Shukran.
Wa alaikum salam. Next we will go to brother Guled.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, brother?
Wa
No,
alaikum.
we're just gonna piggyback on some of those other comments. It's the question is, does he what does he affirm about the Bible? Is it just a collection of stories? Were those things truly happen in reality? I don't know. He seems to tease out, like what you said, beneficial things for a human psyche to be better in the world than it being like, what does he affirm about God? Does he affirm like attributes, you know? I don't know. It seems like a lot of people think he's a traditional, but he's pretty far from a traditional Christian tradition. I don't know if he does. I don't know if he believes in the Trinity and what that means.
Yeah.
As what people hold to be true today. He seems to be someone who, in his past, he's probably raised Christian or in a Christian country, and has found like many benefits from reading the Bible. But he wouldn't affirm what a traditional Christian would affirm about the Bible, it seems.
Yeah, I think you're right. We definitely can't say that he literally believes in those prophets, those miracles, in those revelations. He sees the efficacy of having those things or having that worldview. Does he believe in the historical Jesus, that Isa al-Islam existed? I think he does. Does he believe Jesus is God? Does he believe in the Trinity? Does he believe in a greater power? I don't know. And I'm looking at his content.
I think a lot of people are confused by him. Like a lot of Muslims are confused because they don't really know his positions, because he has a hard time setting out what he affirms, really.
Yeah, I don't think he has a hard time setting out what he affirms. I think he has a hard time articulating what he affirms, because he knows what pragmatically is good for him to believe from his perspective. It's just that I think most people find it hard to swallow, and that's the problem. So
when he said no, I was thinking in my head he'd have a hard time justifying any of those prophecies and what the prophecy means to what a Muslim believes it means, to what a traditional Christian believes it to mean, and what he might think it means.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I guess he doesn't like how Muhammad Hijab tried to propositionally state, if there was a probabilistical amount of weight, would you believe these things? Because I don't know what, as you guys have already talked about, is what he believes is truth and what can be derived as truth. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. A lot of people have already mentioned what I was going to say, so it was nice talking to you. I always enjoy your videos, man. It's a lot of help, a lot of knowledge gained from it. So Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum. Next, we will go to the Muslim cowboy. Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, Sabur?
I'm good. Funnily enough, I was just watching you on the Deen show just a few days ago, and then you joined the stream. I was like, oh, mashallah.
Allahumma barak, mashallah. Yeah, I was, so I guess someone came up with this stream, so I was like, I'm gonna go check it out, because it's 2:15 a.m. right here in Medina, so I was about to go to bed, but I was like, you know what, I need to connect with you, give my salams to Imran and everybody on the team.
Will do.
But yeah, because alhamdulillah, I've got I actually, I don't want this to be about me, but I really want to do some projects with you guys with the Dawah organization I work with. We got some amazing ideas on defending the Prophet. So if we can talk later,
Yeah,
that'd be good, because
I mean, you can get my number. You can get my number from Eddie or
what about Imran?
Imran Hussein?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know you were talking to Imran Hussein. Yeah.
Yeah, I had him on a podcast a year ago or so. So before I became the Muslim cowboy. So.
Okay, mashallah, good. No, that's great. It'd be great to work on some stuff. I didn't know you were based in Medina. I thought you were based in like Texas or something.
Yeah, I'm back and forth. I mean, I go to school here, so in the summers I go back to Texas, and but I'm here studying in the university now and doing some Dawah work and working.
Okay, good. I enjoyed Texas. I went there a few years back.
Well, you're welcome there, and you're welcome here too, man. We've got extra room, so and I say this sincerely, if you want somewhere to stay for free, you got it, partner. I'll take good care of you.
I might take you up on that.
Inshallah.
Good to see you, inshallah.
Do you think
this discussion?
Well, see, I haven't actually watched the new Jordan Peterson thing. I've been like crazy busy, but at least what I've seen the last couple weeks, I mean, I'm just a little suspicious. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but do you think he could be being propped up as a figurehead of the Abrahamic Accord movement?
I honestly don't think he has that kind of political weight, even if they wanted to do that, because in many ways, this is like, if you like, a international relations type of question, right? And his sway is over incels or people with existential crises and people who really have no dog in the fight. Like, if you look at most of his following, most of the people who pick up his books and whatnot, they're not interested in these Middle Eastern issues. They're not interested in anything even beyond their immediate issues to do with women and gender and how society treats them and this kind of thing. So if it was the case that someone put him forward, it's like not a good candidate for what they're trying to achieve. I think he's just he's obviously been linked to this because of the previous video and these types of things. But at the same time, if you look at what he said in the video, the message to Muslims, I don't remember the words he used, and Brother Muhammad from Dawah is here. Maybe he can remind us what those words are if he's seen them. But he basically takes back that video and he says something like the video was, Muhammad, what was it? What's the word he used? He took back his words in that video.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. What I was letting. What was the question?
His message to Muslims video didn't land well with Muslims, and then in this recent video, he took those words back. He sort of criticized his own video. I remember I was there in person a few weeks back. I don't remember, but that's what I'm saying to the Muslim cowboy.
Yes, I made some notes on it. Let me just have a look at my notes because he did mention this. But yeah, so from what I understand, what he said was it was selfish and stupid or something of me to have done this, right? Something like this, which I thought was quite a big admission on an open forum of this nature. But again, the question is, what does he lose by saying that? I don't know. I mean, is he weighing up the costs of admitting this publicly and knowing that, as you've just said, his follower base don't really care?
They don't care.
Yeah, exactly. So his follower base is
right.
really
They're kind
all
of like the alt-right type, huh?
Yeah, not even the alt-right. I don't think his followers are the alt-right. I think some of them may be alt-right. The vast majority of his followers are the average person in the West, especially male, who feels like they can't be themselves. They feel like they've been feminized. They feel woke liberalism is choking them and that kind of thing. So people who are not generally interested in Middle Eastern politics, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I guess that would be more of a non-interventionist kind of modern style of that movement back in the U.S.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
mostly disconnected from current affairs. It's a particular group that, and again, because of the way Jordan Peterson positions himself and markets himself, he appeals to the group that have lost interest in motivational videos, but they still want to find themselves, but they don't think religion is the answer. So they're looking for a middle ground. And he's offering this middle ground where he's part motivational, part inspirational, and part spiritual. And he wraps it all up in this nice sort of Christological language. But he doesn't quite believe it, which comes across. And it's very appetizing for this group because it's a non-committal process.
Yeah.
I can listen to him. He's not preaching to me. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to commit to it. But if there's something nice that I can take away from it, then I can either vicariously take advantage of it, or I can actually jump in and buy his books.
I think that's a good summary. Yeah.
Quite
I'll
apt.
concur with that. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think you two are, good candidates to end this live stream on, because I've been going for nearly 2 hours now, and it's
Well, actually, there's one point I want to make, which is the main reason for joining. So, in the middle of the discussion, around the 45-minute mark, there's a discussion around Carl Jung and Jordan's attitude to truth, and he made a very fleeting comment in the middle of the discussion when Muhammad Ajab was asking him, "Well, do you believe in truth?" And he says, and he basically, what he said is, not in the scientific sense, right? And I found that fascinating, because then he followed that up with really a couple of sentences later where he said, let me have a look at my notes here. So he says, I believe that, or actually what he said was, on Sam Harris discussion, he said pragmatism is malleable. And then he said, yes, but I think truth, there is no absolute truth in that sense. And therefore truth should be subservient to pragmatism. Right, which I found very, very fascinating, because it gives actually his worldview. And I think this is what I'm getting to after listening to him now a few times, is, first of all, he was an unknown professor of no repute, of zero academic achievement until 2016, when he stood up against the Canadian bill that was being passed around gender issues, right?
Yeah.
And he suddenly came to light as this pseudo-intellectual. And I think this triggered within him an ego that he wasn't aware was there. And so it sort of really brought it to light. This is what I'm seeing. And so then, of course, he went through a bit of suffering, with his own addiction, with his wife's cancer. And then he realized that in his storytelling, he's almost he's become this pseudo-prophetic figure to his audience, because that's how they see it. That's how they see it, right? And so he's realized, being exactly in his words, I'm a pragmatist. I think truth is subservient to pragmatism. So consequently, and again, this is consequentialism, but let's not go there. Consequently, his entire framework of his spiritual language is a very practical, pragmatic tool that he's using to bolster his ego. And his appeal to this very sort of nonchalant, non-committal perspective that it takes when talking to different communities. Am I not Muslim enough, was one of the comments he said to Muhammad Jab, right? To have been invited here, which means, am I not chameleon enough just to get through the filters that you're trying to put in? Do I pass? You see, in the church, he can do that. With the Jews, he can sort of do that. In Judaism, but in Islam, he can't do that, because we don't have this sort of chameleon nature approach to Islam. Of course, you're either Muslim or you're not. It's really simple.
Yeah.
And that's for me, that's the wall he's come up against that he never thought he would come against. Because this is and again, this is for somebody who doesn't recognize truth with a capital T, has suddenly been hit with having to recognize that no, there is a community here who absolutely staunchly, with absolute certainty, believes in truth with a capital T. He wasn't expecting this. And I think that's the cognitive dissonance which he has in himself is now manifesting in that maybe my own cognitive dissonance is of my own making, rather than cognitive dissonance is a default state for humans, which is, I think, what he arrived at before coming up against the Islamic narrative with us. I mean, this is sort of... Anyway, let me leave it there. I don't want to make it... I've got a little bit more to say on this, but let me leave it there for now.
What do you think?
Well, Muhammad, do you think him actually seeing success is his own worst enemy?
Yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, so most academics that I know, and I've spent a lot of time with academics and a lot of PhDs in my time, almost all of them deep inside want their 15 minutes of fame. You know, as and I won't say who said it, we know who said that. This is his 15 minutes of fame. And he's milking it for every minute he can get on the world stage. Because he never expected this. He never expected this. It came out of nowhere.
SubhanAllah. And that completely explains like how he addresses so many issues, and he doesn't, he treats everything like with a 10-foot pole almost, and dances around a lot of it, because I don't think he is adequately equipped, at least eloquently wise, like speech wise, to be able to tackle some of the things that he's presented with.
Right. So I would sort of put it in differently. I would say he's articulate. He's well.
I'm not saying he's not smart or that.
Right.
I
Exactly.
just think that
Exactly.
So this is something that it's outside of his framework and worldview.
Absolutely, yes. So this I agree with. Exactly. So what he's done is he's built scaffolding. Is that the right word? Does that come across properly?
Yeah.
He's built an intellectual scaffolding in the absence of truth, of course, remember. So you've got to remember where he came from. He came from a world where everything was relative. Truth was very, very sort of practical and pragmatic as far as he was concerned. So he built a scaffolding using this. And on this scaffolding, he's now searching for tools. And he's found that belief is one of those tools that's very appealing. And so the scaffolding that is built, he's then filled in the gaps with a lot of the philosophical readings that he's gone down and the different roads that he goes. And he appeals to a lot of these philosophical works repeatedly in his works. But to me, appealing to the philosophers is no different from a pragmatic perspective than appealing to religion. It's just whatever is relevant for this discussion, I'll bring it all in. And if this toolbox works at that moment in time, fantastic, I've got my point across. It's really simple. I mean, he believes in Nietzsche as much as he believes in God. To me, as far as he's concerned, they're on the same level. What do you think, Sabur?
I think what you said about fame being his, what was the word you
worst
used?
enemy, his own worst enemy.
His own worst enemy. So I think that's generally true for most people. Like fame ends up being very detrimental. But I think there's something I wanted to highlight about this, that it reminds me of the statement, it's better to be ready for an opportunity that doesn't come than an opportunity comes and you're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
I think JP was what people were waiting for. There was this silent majority of men, especially in the Western world, who had no representation. So when the thing happened in 2016 or whatever,
yes,
the groundwork was already done. You know, sometimes in marketing, you push a product because that product is what you want to sell, and that's the product that you've made. Other times there's a demand, nobody's come onto the market, and you launch that product and it blows up. I think that there's a lot of truth in that. In a way, it's incidental because it could have been anybody else, anybody else with the same worldview that he has. The difference being, of course, that he came in at the right time, but also he is eloquent, because eloquence is a type of magic. It can be a type of magic, right? And he is very entertaining to listen to, and he's very knowledgeable. So I think overall, a lot of your analysis makes sense in the light of the fact that there is this silent majority, and I still think there are other pockets of this silent majority where other leaders haven't popped up yet, but people are waiting for these types of things. There's many things about woke liberalism which, you know, people are absolutely sick about, but they're just waiting for someone to stand up and take a stance. Whoever's the first person to take a stance, they automatically are galvanized to become the leader.
I agree, and I think, you know, the voice for the voiceless, or the voiceless minority, whatever it may want to be, absolutely. I think that was very timely. In another sense, where I see Jordan really sort of taking advantage of his situation is this sort of very pseudo-intellectual approach to what is essentially motivational speech making for this voiceless minority. And on the one hand, I mean, he does have academic credentials, but in some of the topics that he speaks about, he is so far away from his academic arena that it's actually way out of lane, and he shouldn't be talking about it. And when he does, realize what he says. He says, "I feel this." He actually draws the lines repeatedly, so he does it deliberately. So there's a very deliberate, intentional approach that when he steers out of his lane, he does it deliberately, and he knows it's very appropriate because he will get the reaction he wants.
Yeah.
And then he comes back into lane again. And then what he does, and I've seen this repeatedly in his conversations, is he will go out of lane and say, "I feel," or "It's not it's not intellectual, it's not scientific, but I'll say it anyway," something to that effect. And then he'll come back in lane and will psychoanalyze his straw man. And he will psychoanalyze his straw man and then justify that position that he's just created over here using his academic credentials. And then he'll lay out for you a narrative that you will then just say, "Of course it makes sense." But you see what he's done. He's played the game.
Yeah.
And you've fallen straight into agreeing with something that you didn't know you should be agreeing with. That's the attraction that he has. And he does it very deliberately. And I think this sort of regularly tearing up now is getting a little bit old as well. That's the last thing I'll say. I'm sure it's look, emotions are very difficult things to manage. And I'm sure deep down somewhere there is a sense of, "I don't deserve this." Right? And I think that's where the tearing up comes from, not from the specific comments that he makes. It's the why, I mean, in a way, he's sort of saying, "Why am I so blessed to be in this position?" And he doesn't know how to be grateful, of course. And so the consequence is whenever anybody comments or says something to him, it's that emotion that triggers the tears, not the actual words that are being said.
Yeah, it may also be linked. This is just totally
exactly.
Like I mean, what I'm about to say now is just my own thoughts. They have no evidence for them. It may be that he knows it's temporary. This 15 minutes of fame. He knows somebody calling him a rabbi or calling him an imam or calling him whatever, something which he really values. He knows he's 60 years old or something, and he knows his health is not all the best. It's almost like, we're here for a blink of an eye, and he's just realizing that at that moment. So the way I see that emotion and the crying is it's been a lot more prominent since he came back from his illness.
Yes.
And if you look at the fact that, in his videos, he talks about how he can't even get up in the morning, and, he has to, go through this entire routine to just barely walk. It's something which I think just hits everybody. It's something Robert Greene speaks about, the sublime. Yeah. He speaks about when you realize you're so small in this, you're so insignificant in the grand scheme of things, it gives you this thrill. I think he's going through something like that. What do you think? I don't know your actual name. Muslim Cowboy. I don't know your actual name, so I'll just call you
Brandon.
Brandon. Okay, Brandon. Okay, we'll call you Brandon.
What do you think about this?
Pleased to meet you, Brandon.
You as well. تشرفنا بيكم. No, it's almost like not even a midlife crisis. I see it as an end of life crisis, that he is being confronted with several different emotions. It goes back to his cognitive dissonance. Like, this what he's getting is happening, a little bit, later in his life. And I think it comes down to, him thinking about what he's seen so far, and also this ties into his ego, how he's seeing this fame. It's his own worst enemy. When he sees that, look at what he's able to accomplish. I see that a part of that could have to do with, well, how much longer am I going to be able to enjoy this feeling? And then once I die, is this feeling going to go away? Because at the end of the day, we have to understand that, what are his beliefs anyway? What does he believe? Does he believe in a hereafter? Because everything is so loose. What is really going on? Is he actually afraid of dying? Like, most people are. Is that what he's going through? And so that's tied into it, or these are just some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you put it, end of life crisis.
Yes.
Right? It's one of those things that you only really appreciate something when it's coming to an end, or when you don't have it anymore. And in many ways, it could also be that if you have this idea in your head that when I have all this money, I'll be happy. When I have all this fame, I'll be happy. But then when you reach the pinnacle of it, it's kind of empty. It's not as rich as you thought. So there's a lot of conflicting emotions in regards to this as well. As we're coming to the end of the live stream, I didn't want to, not add Brother Isa Dawah, who I just
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Isa. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Isa.
Good to see you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I have a bone to pick with the Muslim cowboy, bro. All right, just real quick.
I'll
just
step
allow me.
away,
Just
right?
hang on. Just allow me, Sabur. One second, brother. Hang on. Check it out.
Yeah.
Yeehaw, buddy. That's me, bro. I'm the cowboy. No, so this kind of like started from this kind of started from giving dawah with Christians and those staunch like haters of Islam. And I used to tell them, man, you one of them yeehaw buddy Christians, right? And then it would just it kind of snowballed from there. But alhamdulillah, I'm a funny dude, man. I joke a lot and play. So anyways.
So
what's up, brothers?
What do you think, Brother Isa, about this discussion between Muhammad Hijab and Jordan Peterson?
I didn't get to see it. I really didn't. But what Brother Muhammad here was saying was on point, because I've seen his other videos, right? I was literally dealing with my baby, man. I was trying to put her to sleep, and I'm over here. That when I said Salaam Alaikum to the fam, like literally I had my baby in my arms doing this. I'm like, come on, baby, go to bed so I can hop on the live real quick and say salam to the brother. But she finally went to sleep, alhamdulillah. My wife is here now, so but yeah, it's almost like not trying to make it about me, but giving dawah, right? It's like so I was giving dawah on TikTok, and I don't really know how the algorithm works, but I would have like 1,000 people and almost 1,000 people just like watching, when people who's been there for real long time only probably have a couple dozen people in their life, right? So like this stuff kind of goes to your head, and I'm just kind of going off of what Muhammad was saying. But then after a while, I started questioning myself: am I sufficient? Is this can I really like do that? And wallahi, it's not about, counting shahadas or anything, but even after giving people shahadas and things like this, I literally questioned myself really deeply to where it almost depressed me, man. Wallahi, I was questioning myself so deeply that, I just kind of left the Dawah scene for like maybe a month. I just left. People were asking me, "Where you been, man? What's going on?" I'm like, brother, people got their own problems, man. Like, we're just regular people, So, but yeah, so I understand what you were saying, brother Muhammad. Like, people get their 15 minutes of fame, and then it could come to this point in life where you start questioning, like, are you sufficient? Like, do you have literally what it takes? Or are you making a fool out of yourself?
Well, yeah. So what I would add there, Brother Isa, is I think as Muslims we ask those questions. As individuals without guardrails, without any kind of anchorage in absolute truth, we don't have the sense to ask those questions. Because what you do is you take it and you think, I want more. I want more. I want more. I like this. I like this feeling. I want more of it. And to coin a phrase, they get inebriated on this sense of adoration,
like
the
they get
sense
a
of
high. They get a
adoration.
high from.
Yeah, they get a high
from
on this adoration. Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
So as a Muslim, we're taught actually to check ourselves repeatedly. What is our intention? Because the intention is the most important thing.
Yeah.
The actions must match the intentions if you want the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so therefore it is only normal that we do this, which is we step back and we do dua, we pray, we do istighfar, we always pray that anything that we do is for the right reasons. When you don't have those guardrails and you don't have any guidance, and you openly admit to doing everything as a pragmatist, or at least appealing to that as the tool set that you're using, then I think it is quite obvious they would end up in this stupor almost.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is because I watched his stream, not the one from the masjid. In his stream, he finished the video at the 135 mark, and I don't know how much he edited out of the middle. Of course, I'll go watch the other one tomorrow, inshallah. But he finished it with, the proof of faith is not the faith. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but the attractiveness of the adherents of the faith.
That's
what does that tell you? What does that tell you? It's all about the show. Whoever puts on the best show, I'll go with them.
I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
No, that's the complete opposite of the feeling that I got. And I don't want when I was just on a show with EA Dawah and Friendly Muslim earlier, mashallah, and it got me remembering a lot of things about when I converted almost 9 years ago in January. But like that, the day that I had my experience, my dream that I had, and when I started going to look at the Quran, mind you, I had never been in any Muslim communities. No one ever gave me dawah. I hadn't been around Muslims, so I didn't know how they were. I was coming from a worldview down in Texas that I just thought Muslims were, brown people with a brown religion. Astaghfirullah. That's just how I saw it. Like I even thought, before I became Muslim, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was probably a prophet, but he was a prophet for brown people, for like Westerners. And subhanAllah, the day that this happened, when I was going to go give my shahada, which was a week later, and I was driving, I was seriously thinking like, because people, when I told everybody, I was like, I'm going to go give shahada today. I told my parents, and people like, oh my God, you're going to go meet, these people and blah, blah, blah. And other people like, you're going to go be with these terrorists. And I sat there and told myself, I said, I don't care if every single Muslim is evil on the face of the earth. I'm going to become a Muslim because Allah has commanded it, and it's the truth. Like the complete opposite. Like, I don't care if every Muslim on the face of the earth is evil. Like if they're bad people, if it's true, everything that they say about them. But I know that Allah has commanded us in the deen indallah al-Islam, that this is the only way with God. So I have to go do this. Yeah. And that's what he's doing is like the opposite of it. And I see this as coming into a more general change of I guess society's worldview, because society has a general worldview that it goes into, and it has to do with this truth thing. I think we'll. I kind of want to touch on it again, but I know you want to get off, and I got to get to sleep. But I was watching a few shows from like the 90s and like maybe even early 2000s, before like 2001 and around that time. And I want to put together a compilation if I can, but in different places in multiple parts, I noticed that in the shows they would repeat things back in the 90s, like words like there is only one truth. Like it doesn't matter what you think you saw, like even detective shows or this or that, they would say there's only one truth. At the end of the day, no matter what this person saw is different from what that person saw. When you put it all together, there's only one truth. Like someone who killed somebody, it might appear that this guy killed him and not this guy. But in reality,
you're talking about the saying, it's your side of the story, their side of the story, and then you have the truth.
And then you have the story, right? Well, what is actually the story? And now there's this pushback against that. I'm saying as in general, like as a society, and I think this is something that he has, also made himself a part of, is that we don't really know if we can determine what that one truth is.
Which is exactly what he said. Actually.
A lot of people,
and I'll go watch the other side tomorrow and see how. Well, did you listen to the Muhammad Hijab lecture, Sabur? By the way, have you listened to the Muhammad Hijab lecture? The one from our side, the Muslim side.
Yeah. So, I was at the event, and so therefore the footage that we have now, it cuts off some things in the beginning, and some, just a little bit near the end. Because in the beginning we had the recitation and we had a quick sort of discussion. The thing is, overall, I don't think adding those things would have changed a lot of the perspectives that we're coming up with. Because it's past midnight, it's nearly 1 o'clock, and I need to go to work tomorrow. Let's end here. So let's just.
You got a job, brother? Literally, my job is giving Dawah all day, man. I try to do it all day.
So let's just closing statements. We'll start off with Isa, then Muhammad, then the Muslim cowboy.
Yeah, I was gonna say something, but then I forgot, so it's all good. Alhamdulillah. I'll say Bismillah. By the time you close the stream, I'll remember. Alhamdulillah, it's all good, brother.
No worries, brother Muhammad.
Yeah, I would say, look, I think engaging with Jordan Peterson is a good thing. I mean, it's prophetic, and I think I liked what you said earlier, which is ignoring people like this is at our peril.
Yeah.
But guidance is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. We don't need him. I mean, we don't need him. Islam doesn't need him. There is no need to pray that he becomes one of us. I mean, you can if you want. But we're not going to be necessarily any better off if he does or doesn't join. So at the end of the day, leave it to Allah. But it's our job to send the message to him. And this is what I think Brother Hijab did an awesome job today of what I've heard of mentioning ayats of the Quran, of mentioning history, putting it in context with terms of also his academic work, and bringing in really all of this and saying, look, Islam is coherent end to end, which is what I got from Muhammad Hijab. Yeah. And I think this, if you look at the face of Peterson, it really hit him when he presented this end-to-end coherence narrative, because he wasn't expecting this. And I think in a couple of times he said, "You're actually quite." I mean, he didn't say amicable, but he said, "You're quite a nice guy," or he said, "Who says you're not nice?" or something. Because I think he was expecting something else, and this was his disguised way of saying, "Oh, this is not as confrontational as I thought it would be."
Yeah.
So I think there was a hidden message there as well.
Yeah. He does speak in those sort of ways. So
thank you for giving me so much time, by the way. I really do appreciate it.
It's really insightful thoughts there. Brandon, what do you think?
Well, first of all, guys, stop zombie scrolling and say La ilaha illallah.
La ilaha illallah. Alhamdulillah.
All right, but yeah, to at the risk of beating a dead horse, look, brothers and sisters, the issue that we have today is that we are making role models for ourselves, or at least some people are, people who might not have things that we don't want we don't want our kids, we don't want our families to be taking on as role models. Yeah, they come along with things that you maybe as a marginalized, Muslim who feels like maybe your community, your school is pushing liberalism, and you see Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson kind of giving you that push that you need. But just recognize though that if it's not coming from what the Prophet ﷺ was given, then there's going to be some nuqs. So there's going to be some deficiency in it, and we see that, right? We see those deficiencies. So you have to be careful who you make as role models, even if you say, oh, I just watch him because I like some of this stuff and some of others. And we're not saying you can't watch it at all. It's just to understand that the things that you spend most of your time doing and most of your time around, it's going to start to influence you, even if it's really minutely. Because when it comes to da'wah, al-marru ala dini khalilihi, as the Prophet ﷺ said, a person is upon the religion of their closest friend. And for people who don't go out much, who watch YouTube all day or watch stuff all day, which is a reality for many of our youth and many people in the Muslim community, those that you're around are those who you're being influenced by. I mean, that's why they're called influencers. And so you just need to be cognizant. Make a lot of dhikr, read the Quran, try to, establish a community, make good friends, people who are going to hold you to account for things. And at the end of the day, we ask Allah for tawfiq. We ask Allah to guide him. He's just a man, just like the people during the time of the Prophet ﷺ were men. And God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, guided some of them and he didn't guide others. So at the end of the day, this religion, Allah says in a couple places in the Quran, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that he is the one who sent down the religion of truth, the way of truth, the worldview of truth, right? And his messenger to convey it. And he will make it manifest. He will make it apparent and victorious over all other ways, all other worldviews and religions, despite how much the people who are part of those things, they dislike it, right? So we don't, Islam is going to be victorious. It's a force that we can't mess with. So, just do your part. وَمَا عَلَيْكَ إِلَّا بَلَاغ.
I'd like to say something real quick, if you don't mind, brother.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so the brothers, a few brothers in the comments are saying that I only know about Christianity. I don't know about Aqidah. These are brothers.
You got to leave
Like
the comments,
this is
bro.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? But
May Allah
it's
protect
funny.
you.
Here, I'll give you some Aqidah, brother. Allah sees all. He hears all. And he knows all. And that comment you made, I hope you retract it. And there was actually two of them, right? That I don't know anything about Aqidah, and like this is the type of stuff that we have to fight even amongst ourselves. Why would a person like Jordan Peterson ever want to become a Muslim when they see things like this? And now I'm not saying that. Anyways, I think what I was gonna say earlier, I actually just remembered, right? So real quickly, I know you have to go, brother. Given Dawah on TikTok, there was this one guy who used to literally just say like borderline disrespectful stuff when I'm talking about Christianity or even Islam. It didn't matter. You just always saying stuff, right? Contrary to the stuff that I was saying. And it's cool, whatever. You're still hearing the message, alhamdulillah. I don't care. He never got so disrespectful where I blocked him or something like that, right? But I just kept giving da'wah. And the brother accepted Islam. Like literally fighting against me openly. And I told him, hey, don't disrespect us. If you do, I'm going to block you. And I don't want to do that. He stopped. Within like 3 weeks, you could see that his tone changed, and he accepted Islam. All right. So just like with Jordan Peterson, look, have good character, good morals, and let him see that side of Islam, regardless of which, you can. I have, I have my family members. They're Christian. I'm in my immediate family. I'm the only Muslim, the only one. When I go to, their gatherings or whatever, they're eating pork, they're drinking alcohol. I know myself. I still pray when I'm supposed to pray. I don't care if they're dancing and drinking or whatever, right? I've already done the talking and fighting with them, and I'm done with that. Now it's just having, a partaking with them, and I don't engage in any of the stuff that we're not supposed to engage in. These are my family members, right? But I'm gonna remain a Muslim, and they know the message. In fact, I'm sure they see, my dawah and things like this. So inshallah, these people come to Islam, but my brothers and my family, inshallah. But yeah, man, that's all I want to say. Just keep good moral characters and character, and let people see that side. You can only talk to people for so much. Even the intellectuals, they're too intellectual, right? They're too smart for their own good, right? And this is kind of like what Muhammad was saying, you know. But then like you said, you get like that nice cup of humble tea. He realized this, like, man, Islam, like these people they don't play about their religion. Like this is something real, right? We're not like these liberal, progressive people who just accept anything and everyone, and it's just the big old, party.
Yeah.
No, we have rules, we have regulations, we adhere to them. Why? Because we believe in Allah, we love Allah, and we love the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we believe in the message and his sunnah. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair for that, brother Isa. Something that you said, and it's been reiterated by others as well, is that Islam is essentially very simple. Sometimes when you look at conversations like this, you just think this is so sometimes you think this is so unnecessary, because Islam came down for the peasant as much as it came down for the philosopher or the philanthropist or whatever. It came down for everybody, and the message of Islam is so profound. It doesn't even need that much explanation. It could be understood by anybody. And what I find is that the more you try and get away from the truth, you're going to have to make your life more and more complicated and come up with these different levels of scaffolding to anchor your life. But the real foundation of Islam, that la ilaha illallah, that there's none worthy of worship except Allah, having that solid foundation, as Muslims, we sometimes forget the other side who don't have it, and therefore they have to have all these different social constructs to try and make up for the reality that we are the pleasure that we get from having this certainty. And it's one of the human needs to have this type of certainty, because that certainty, it frees you to look at the world in a very different way. And many of us who've interacted with atheists, that's one of the arguments you put against them. If you start off from an atheistic or agnostic point of view, morals, value, purpose, your existence, none of these things can be explained. So the same thing, we would say to Jordan Peterson, we would say to his followers, we would say, just come to Islam, because Islam is simple. And not only is it true empirically, as in there's an ontological truth to it, but even practically, there's benefits to becoming a Muslim, because you'll never find the type of happiness that you get in Islam. You'll never have that, even if you had everything in the world. So Jazakallah khair, brother Isa, Brandon, Muhammad, and everyone else. And inshallah, we're going to do more streams in the future. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah, look forward to that. Wa alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.